What's up everyone, this is Scher talking and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we'll be giving a review to the new Lunar New Year banner that brings 3 different GLEX styles into the game. They are all good, but it also depends on characters that you have to decide if they are worth or not for you. Let's start with Claudia. We do have plenty of different styles for Claudia inside the game. Only the very first one is Platinum, and the other 3 ones were limited. Then there is even a NES limited style. Well, Looking for Targets is the name of the new version of Claudia. And as you can see, we can compare the status with other versions of her, and the best one was this called Farewell Maze Wood. This was an UDX style, and pretty strong even to this day, but she was lacking a double S bow that was made for her. We have Liz bow, but it's made for mages. In this event, we'll get the correct bow to use with Claudia. So finally, she will be able to use a very good damage on turn 1. Looking for Targets, Claudia has a very low SGR because she does not use. Endurance is on 61. Well, the highest one saved for her summer style. That's not relevant anymore. Her dexterity is a little higher than her UDX style by 2%. Her agility is pretty close to both summer and UDX. Difference is very small. Her intelligence is similar to the UDX style. It still does not beat Award Claudia that's used for Conquest in instant kill strategies and even Paralyze. The Will is the highest one of all. In her love, well, there's a very interesting thing about Claudia. She has a massive bonus for dexterity, but the other bonus goes for charisma. And the reason why is because she's a self-sustained, self-healed character. Other characters like UDX was more focused on dexterity and agility, and although her agility is pretty good as it is, she does not have a bonus for it. For the first passive, we have Recurring Region Dexterity, that when she lands an attack, she will recover HP by a very small effect. That should be around 170s or something because her charisma is pretty massive, and she will buff her dexterity by 15%, only after she attacks. When comparing her to Minerva, Minerva buffs herself before attacking with her passive, so it's better because it goes for turn 1. She will only stack dexterity after attacking. Then we have Weak Tension passive that increases damage by 15% at all times, and then 10% more when hitting a weak target. So 25% most of the time. And Fired Up 5 increases her damage even further by 20. So we have 45 when hitting a weak target and 35 at all times. Pretty good for a character with such a high dexterity. Well, Emperor has only 40% as comparison. Then for our skills, we have Healing Arrow. The skill here is amazing. Well, it is a 3 BP skill with E power, 9 multiplier. It's pretty close to D. D starts with 10 and recovers the user for small amount of HP. It should be 700 and something, very close to 800 already if you get her maxed, because she is already a character with massive charisma that affects the healing. So we already have this attack in the past. It was used with SaGa. SaGa had a limited style. She got released with Thomas, and she got the skill here. Her charisma was also pretty good, but not as massive as Claudia's. Although SaGa still has something unique, her skill number 3 deals triple S damage and she heals herself and everyone by small effect. That should be around 150. Claudia is more about just healing herself. She deals way more damage than SaGa as well. So, when you think about that, she's healing for 700, let's say 700, and already healing more because of Recurring Region. She's healing for 850 or more when she's just using Healing Arrow, and she will always have this available because it's 3 BP. Then the second skill is called Heart Seeker. That can be upgraded into Heart Seeker Plus, but it does not come upgraded. Plenty of people already did an upgrade because it was the best nuke attack to use with this version, Escape from Maze Wood Claudia. She could get it from this version, Heart Seeker, and upgrade it to, well, triple S damage. You see, it's a very good upgrade. And if you upgrade, it's a very good skill for turn 1 damage, but let's see something here. It has a chance to charm the target, and charm is based on charisma, so very good chance to inflict charm. We got plenty of charm inflictors recently, and to be honest, we barely have a usage for charm, unless very specific challenge. And at least the damage is pretty okay with triple S59. When we compare this to, let's say, Minerva, it's a very close damage to what Minerva does, but Minerva does have Acupuncture Plus that always debuffs the target for STR. She lacks a very good special effect. Charm is hardly useful most of the time. Well, I'm comparing both because they both do pierce damage. So you still need to use Amplify badges to get the max. Then we have the third skill called Flickering Lanterns, and this is a 10 VP AoE attack for pierce and hit. And let me tell you something, she will hit pretty massively, even better damage than Emperor in my opinion, and Emperor already deals a lot of damage. Usually in Global, when they give an A power skill, they even give A power with high modifier and not low. Let's say Global X Emilia is pretty strong because of the modifier, and I'm suspecting that this will be good as well. And she can also inflict charm with this attack. Either her single target option or her AoE option will have a medium chance to inflict charm with very high charm status. She will be very good for, let's say, some challenges with only one stage, for enemies that are susceptible to charm. Better for newcomers than for veterans that just want to kill them all. But still, interesting to have heat in the dexterity position on the Rainbow Rangers formation. We already have Dora for agility. We don't have that many for STR, but we do have plenty for intelligence now. So that's good, at least for farming where you only need one turn to finish. Well, as for inheritance, we can get Reverie Shot from her UDX style. Reverie Shot is a very powerful attack that we never saw the full potential because we lacked a proper bow, but now we have in this event. So you should upgrade that bow, and if you have Reverie Shot, you will do even higher damage. UDX Claudia only had access to 35% increase in damage. Now we have higher dexterity, higher bonus, and also her recruiting region will allow the second and third hit to get bigger damage because you will have your dexterity buffed on the first hit, allowing you to see the max potential from Reverie Shot. She will rival some of the biggest damage dealers winning game right now, like Double Dark Blade, Final Emperor. She will beat him in full damage potential when she hits weak targets. Very nice when you see that we don't have that many turn 1 damage for Pierce. We do have long term, like we do have Mikhail, but he's more for boss fights because he has delay. We do have Minerva with Acupuncture Plus, but Minerva cannot beat a character like Hannibal. She comes pretty close, and now Claudia beats Hannibal because of this combination. But you do need to have this UDX style in order to have the full potential of single target. Reverie Shot will do much more damage than Heartseeker Plus. So in the end, Claudia is good for farming and for boss fights. For fast and long fights, because of Recurring Region and Healing Arrow, she can survive. If you want her to do turn 1 damage, she can do AoE and a very, very powerful attack with her Reverie Shot as well. But you do need to have the UDX version. Without it, she still does good damage with Heartseeker, but not as much. And if you have some other styles, you can theoretically skip Claudia. Like Mikhail is a very good, powerful attacker that it's used for boss fights, not so much for farming. They are kind of similar, but Mikhail can just self-buff his agility as well if you have inheritance. And, well, he's super good for Lightspeed Plus usage. Or you can just self-heal a lot with his Quadruple Pierce that has delay, but it's pretty strong nonetheless. Another very good pierce damage dealer that I mentioned was Minerva. And if you have Minerva, you can skip Claudia if you want. But, well, you kind of need at least 2 good damage dealers for pierce, in my opinion. Another one that's kind of old now is Jamil. This Jamil here. And also Cordelia. that is kind of old as well. They are characters that work similarly. She will be placed high in our tier list for a double S grade. Now it's time to talk about the next character, and that one is Annie. What should I paint? Well, there are some versions of Annie, only 2 of them are limited. Yes, only this Gotcha is limited, and what should I paint now? And we do have to compare their status. We are pretty close on STR. She has a little less. She has a higher endurance, inferior dexterity, but pretty close. Very, very high agility, 100% for a sword user. This is the first time we see something like that. A pretty terrible intelligence is interesting because she could be a stun inflictor, but if you want stun, you can use other characters. Very good will, the same value as endurance, and above average charisma and low love. Well, we need to check all the other stuff. This version of Annie is a counter specialist with very interesting design, I must say. But she does clash with very good styles like Urpina, Forneus, and even, yeah, Princess Lion. As you can see, she does have bonuses for STR and even for agility, and her bonus for agility is pretty massive. Now, in the case of Annie, I will have to check her skills first and the passives later. The first one is Gleaming Slash. We do have this attack with some other characters. Yeah, Gleaming Slash is the same attack that you can use with Ferdinand, a character that's pretty good for long fights. Ferdinand has the same Gleaming Slash. It's a 0 BP skill that deals E power. Well, the damage is not much more than a normal attack, but it buffs STR by 25%. Ferdinand is a slow burn character, and this version of Annie wants to be the same, but with more effects, but more into that later. It's a very good attack and one of the best ones for auto-cycling, since when it doesn't have BP, it just, well, use this attack and also self-buffs. The second one is called Mech Blade Plus. This one is an attack with A power. It's not bad by 6 BP, it's even an amplified version, and it will buff her agility, and by 25% as well. Very interesting when you look on this, because what you have here is, well, you self-buff for agility and then you self-buff for STR and keep just changing between the 2 skills. When you have an off BP for Mech Blade, you use it. When you don't, you use Gleaming Slash, and then you have a 2-turn cycle of both skills. Very nice in boss fights. She already has very, very high agility, and she can get even more than that depending on the situations. Okay, then the third skill is Colorful Slash. This one is AoE attack, slash and pierce, B power. We don't know the modifier, but it should be very close to A, I believe. And this thing here buffs all her status. Yes, all of her status by 25%. We already have pretty high agility, guys, and we can buff all status, including agility, to get very good evasion rate. Annie was already made for evasion, and she has Slash Rondo that buffs her agility as well, and she already had very good agility, but now she has even higher, and she can put this into usage. And besides buffing all her status, she will also recover HP by around 700 HP or so. Well, if you are using, like, say, Tiger Shark formation, you can place her in the front, use this, buff her agility even further, and, well, if you have Matriarch or something else, you can buff her agility with different effects. Will this work all the time? No, no, no. Sometimes it's not enough agility to evade. But there's also something else. Soul Painter, her first passive, can counter direct attacks with Colorful Slash. Well, it's only a 25% chance, and she evades the attack. Only direct attacks, like all the counter mechanics in this game. The problem is that it only activates using skill rank 1. Well, I said that we get 25% buff when we get the skill maxed, but when we use it on rank 1, it's only 15% increase. Well, is it bad? Well, it's not bad, but because we only have 25% chance of countering, with 15%, how many times will we actually get this buff activated? How many times will she counter and mean something that really matters in the fight? If you think about her as a full counter just for Colorful Slash, she may seem lacking, but she does have something else. Let's talk about the second passive. Prism Soul, when she lands an attack, she will have a chance, again, yes, another chance, 25% chance to buff her STR and agility. And guys, this also reminds me of something else. Well, UDX Madeline. Madeline, let's just give a look on Madeline. And the Madeline UDX version has this one here that is called Moon Shower. When she's landing an attack, she has a high chance of buffing STR and agility. She has a 37% chance. Why did she get something lesser? Well, only 25%. The buff is 20%, but it does not make much sense. I think that they give this to her because they were afraid of giving her such a high agility. If she triggers Soul Painter, she has a chance to trigger Prism Soul on the same attack. So maybe 2 stacks of agility was too much for them. But again, it's just, well, a chance. There's another style that can work similarly, and that is AV. This guy here has 37% chance to counter with this attack called Liver Pack. And Liver Pack will maybe trigger AG Absorb, that increases his agility and decreases the agility of the target, but it's a 25% chance when he's attacking. You see, it's more similar to what we have with AG Absorb. There's too much RNG when we have counter units that don't rely too much on this. With that said, Annie brings too much RNG for my tastes. The last passive is called Overtension. This one increases her damage by 15% at all times, then 30 on combos and 45 on overdrive. Well, that's enough to give some good damage when you are using overdrive with your whole party. But is she doing too much damage before that? Well, maybe yes, because Gleaming Slash will just keep buffing her STR. Sometimes you get Prism Soul activated, sometimes you can get Soul Painter activated, and you can get some buffs. But I don't believe that Annie was made with just these skills and passives in mind. I believe they also thought about parry. Parry is a very good defensive skill that sometimes get overlooked. We use 5 VP to negate all types of attacks for one turn, either direct or indirect, and even status elements. So parry was extremely useful in the start of the game, till we start getting countering characters that could just counter direct attacks. Well, parry can combo with this new version of Annie. Actually, it already comboed with this version of her called Gotcha Annie. This one was released with the SaGa Frontier banner. And, well, she could also counter with damage with 37% chance for direct attacks with her Evasive Thrust passive, or had a 37% chance to buff her own agility as well when she's attacking, and also get her a taunt. If you are using a defensive formation that increases aggro, like even Tiger Shark, you can use parry, have a high chance of being attacked, and increase that chance even further by use of taunt. And parry will just work better if your boss only uses single target skills most of the time. So what's different here? This Annie lacks the taunt part, but she does have a 25% chance of countering with a very powerful AoE attack, and also 25% chance of buffing her STR and agility for that turn where you don't have BP. She can sometimes evade attacks. With such a high agility, it will happen a lot, especially if you have other buffers in the party. But lacking the taunt effect kind of hurts her here, because it will work very well with the Soul Painter. The only skill that gives her taunt comes from Gotcha as well, and that is the first one called Slash Rondo. Slash Rondo gives her agility, that's good, and gives her taunt, but then she will not negate attacks. She will have to rely on evading them by high agility and not by use of parry. So I do see some usage of this Annie for content where you can stack multiple agility buffs and you have other cards that give you more agility, even like Shendu, like Nao's Daughter, like Matriarch, and then she can work, but still kind of restricted. And what she does, it's pretty similar to what you can already do with other counter mechanic characters like Rupina. Rupina is way more safer, especially if you have the Christmas one that can use Torrent easily 2 times in a row depending on the number of attacks she gets. Or you can just try to use Annie differently. You can just use her for damage and cycling Gleaming Slash with Mac Blade and forget about, well, relying on the counter mechanic. It's not that she will be the best damage dealer, but she can do well since she will be buffing at least once with Gleaming Slash. But we have better things for damage. If you're not taking Annie for Barry or for something else. I don't know why you're using her instead of other characters that can solve problems way faster than Amy. Sadly, she relies so much on RNG, and I'm deciding if she gets the low double S tier or an S tier. Kinda relying more on an S tier. Now it's time to talk about Undine, and Undine already had 3 different limited styles in the past. The first one was the school version, focusing on AoE. The second one was focusing on single target and stun and intelligence debuff. The third one kinda tried to do a mix of debuff, damage and support. Now we have a mix again, but with a very good setup. But she kinda wants some inheritance to perform better in some cycles. With that said, her status are now super good. She only loses on the very first 3 status and beats all her past styles in everything. She has the highest agility of them all, the highest intelligence of them all, the highest will, the highest love, the highest charisma. So, everything is better here. Clicking on her, we have bonuses for agility and intelligence, even higher for agility. There's a reason for this, and I will explain. She is a debuffer and also a status inflictor by inheritance. The first passive is called Untouchable Beauty, and we already had this in the past. This passive here is the same as Rock Bouquet's passive that is super amazing. Not just her, but the second version of Joe too. Look here, we have a 25% chance of negating all damage on that turn and also healing. This is pretty good. It's just like having 2 effects in the same passive. Rock Bouquet is a top tier character and she has that. The second passive is called Reinvigorate 1 Intelligence. When she lands an attack, she buffs her own intelligence by 15% and recover on BP. It's like having 2 passives on the same slot. Well, we already have plenty of cards that can self-buff for 15%, but remember Boston? A character got released not much time ago, I mean the very first limited Boston. He has this passive called Infinite Energy that recovers 1 BP. He spent a whole slot to get this because this changes a lot how a character operates. And she does not use the full slot, she also gets the buff. She seems to come from the future. In JP, some styles have this type of passive. JP has characters with similar passives already, but it took them so much time. And then Fired Up 5 increases her damage by 20% at all times. So when you look on this, she has plenty of effects. Evasion chance, heal effect, intelligence buff, BP recover, and damage increase. 5 different effects with a character. 4 skills, the first one is Shield, 4 BP skill that deals cold damage, C power, 20 modifier, 20 is already very good, and has a chance to debuff Dexterity. It says a chance, but the chance is pretty high since she has high intelligence and agility, and she buffs her own intelligence every new turn by attacking. In long fights, she'll hardly ever miss this unless the enemy is just like Golden Ball that buffs her agility 2 times, and even then her accuracy is extremely high. Another character that has shield is Vassalt. Vassalt was released alongside Matriarch, and as you can see, his agility is pretty bad. And he only gets 3 BP by a turn. Eventually he will run out of BP. By having bad agility, he sometimes attacks after the boss, so does not help against turn 1. With Undine, this will not happen. She has a pretty high agility, and she will debuff Dexterity on turn 1. But why do we need Dexterity debuff? To decrease the accuracy of bosses that deal physical damage. That's how it works. But save for martial arts skills. Martial arts skills don't rely on Dexterity, so check the enemy attacks to see if you need a Dexterity debuff or not. Usually we use Dexterity debuffs alongside characters that can buff agility so that we have higher chance of evading. There's only one problem with Undine. We are supposed to get a new version of Undine pretty soon that has a Dexterity debuff for AoE. It deals less damage, so if there's only one boss, Undine may be better. If there's plenty of enemies, Undine will be better. But Undine can even beat that version of Beauty because she has something else, and that something else is Ring of Life. Well, Ring of Life is a very good skill, although extremely limited. The very first AoE option for healing we had in the game. It uses 2 LP, and Undine has only 6, and when she uses Ring of Life, she recovers every ally HP and revives those that are dead. We already had that with Mercifin. And the very first version of Mercifin was not so good because she didn't have anything good besides Ring of Life. She would just be a sitting duck waiting for Ring of Life to be useful. Her damage was terrible, her passives were bad as well. Then we got this version of Mercifin that could inherit Ring of Life, and this version is amazing. So if you already have Ring of Life with this one here, you have a very good character. One of the best ones, especially for cold damage. She also self-buffs for intelligence, and in this case even charisma. And then what we have now is a different version for cold damage. This Undine is specialized in damage and already comes with Ring of Life. The other Mercifin, you needed 2 limited styles in order to work well. A little less investment for a character to work. But here we need to use shield against single target, remember. Okay, Ring of Life is powerful. We already have some other styles that can AoE heal, but they are pretty different, like Leon and also Mirza. Remember, Steel Blade Light is useful a lot because you can use it every 3 turns, does not use LP. Steel Blade Light does not revive. So, if you are using defensive strategy, sometimes your characters don't die. But if you are using her in a team that's defensive, sometimes it's good to have a backup heal that can revive in a character that deals damage. She's not here just sitting and waiting for Ring of Life to be useful. She's here helping the team. So that's why it's so good now. Okay, but again, remember, only 2 users of Ring of Life. Then the last attack is Ice Sky Lantern. Another skill with B power should also be high modifier that deals both cold and sun. I don't know why sun again. Give her light, it will be so much better in my opinion. We already have way too many sources of sun damage. And there's a good thing here. This attack also debuffs dexterity. I didn't say, but shield debuffs dexterity by 15%. Ice Sky Lantern debuffs it by 20%. And in stages like Battle with 8 stars, you can open with Ice Sky Lantern, and then wait till you can use Ice Sky Lantern again. And you'll be able to use that again on turn 3. And if you're using Nawal's Daughter, she will help Undine to decrease this cycle to every 2 turns. Remember, Nawal's Daughter gave 1 more BP. But she still faces competition against Beauty. Beauty can use Dexterity buff every single turn. She wins on this, even if she's doing less damage. There's another stuff that we need to talk, and that is inheritance options. She can get Ice Javelins that can be upgraded to Ice Javelins, plus from her school version. This one debuffs Endurance. And then other inheritance option can be Bubble Pop. Bubble Pop is the best stun skill in the game. It has 3 BP cost, meaning that you can use every turn. And now we go back to Mercifin once again. The reason is that Mercifin can also use Bubble Pop. It comes from a free style that was given during an event. Sometimes it returns. And because she also self-buff for intelligence, she can break through stun resistance. They work the same on the situation. With only one difference, she needs to inherit this and she loses the option to inherit Ring of Life. That does not happen with this version of Undine. She can stick with Ring of Life and use Bubble Pop in the same build. So you have, let's say you inherit Bubble Pop. You have Stun, you have Heal, and you even have a Dexterity buff. So you can use even both together. If you have like 2 enemies, they can just unlock these 2 enemies. And when something bad happens, this Undine can use Ring of Life, since she will still be able to do so. Very interesting setup. And there's another thing that she can inherit that comes from either the Stun Undine or the other recent, and that is Water Hammer. Water Hammer debuffs intelligence, and it's both blunt and cold damage. So the power is not so high, but good enough. And if you Think about it, you get 4 BP by a turn. You will not be skipping too many turns by debuffing intelligence. Since she gets intelligence every turn, damage will not be bad. So it will also help with this type of scenarios, but relies on having inheritance. Without any inheritance, is she good enough? Well, I must say that yes, she's a little more restricted because she will not have full AoE build. On turn 1 she uses Sky Lantern, and then what does she use from AoE? The only other option will be to get Squall upgraded. It becomes a 5 BP skill with deep power. It's a little too costly, we do have plenty of skills that cost only 4 with similar power, so at least you can use that on turn 2 if she attacks on turn 1. But will not work all the same for turn 3. Turn 3 she will not be able to use AoE. Only able to use AoE by inheritance of Ice Javelins. Right now she does not have a single target nuke. You either have to inherit from that recent version of her, with Thunderstroke being a lightning attack that even has stun chance, but it's 10 BP, kinda too costly. Or you can just wait in the future, she will get in Water Blast upgraded as well, and Water Blast is a S power skill with 7 BP cost. It's actually very good for those that can self-buff. But right now, we don't have many options for single target nuke. Cyclone Squeeze is not strong enough for 10 BP on S power. But still, I don't think that you will be using Undine for single target too much. More about bossing. And one interesting thing is that if you inherit Ray of Life into Gamble Art Undine, her first passive, Hermit's Teaching, will buff the whole squad for intelligence and will. 20% value. I don't think this is practical or you should be using this, but, well, it works. Well, I really like Undine, but without any inheritance, she feels a little restricted. I believe she works better for boss fights than for farming, and deserves a double S grade. Returning to the banner image, is this banner worth summoning for? Well, this is not a bad banner, but we also have Global X, Emperor, Empress, and Halloween Princess White Rose in a banner, and I do believe that they still offer more for long terms, at least Halloween Princess White Rose and Empress. These 3 styles are good, with Annie being the last interesting one, but they kinda rely too much on inheritances. But if you are a veteran and have the inheritances for Claudia and Undine, you get way more value. I'll be giving this banner a bronze award, simply because everything that these characters can do can also be done by other characters. With that said, that's my opinion. What is yours? Please use the comment section. If you want to support the channel or join our Discord, you will find links on the description too. Hope to see you soon in the next one. And don't forget, I will do a live stream as soon as Reset comes. Bye.